apologize everybody at the time. We're going to call this meeting to order. Medina County ESD number 2, establishing quorum with Ken Nightwander, Jeff Howard, Todd Summers, Terry Stevens, Abigail Beal, and also in present is our bookkeeper, Mrs. Nancy Pepper. It is 7:07 p.m. on Tuesday, March the 18th, 2025. Recognitions of citizens. Thank you all for being here. Good to see everyone. Is there a sign-up sheet? Did anybody sign up to talk?
Yes.
Sign-up sheet, but ain't nobody signed up.
Nobody on it? Okay.
Nobody's on it.
Just want to make sure. Okay. Everybody knows there's a sign-up sheet, right? Gives you opportunity. Okay. All right. Reading and approval of the minutes. I know Abigail put out the minutes. Did everybody have an opportunity to review those? And are there any discussion, corrections to the previous meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as read.
I have a motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a second?
I second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. That takes us to the treasury report with Ms. Nancy.
Okay. If you take a look at your treasurer's report, this is for the end of February. I'm going to reiterate, we get most of our taxes in. For the M&O account, we received $142,000 during the month of February, and that brings us to $417,000 of our $485,000. So we just had 14% left to collect for the balance of the year. In the regular current taxes, we'll have a larger percentage of that in the delinquent and the penalty and interest, which didn't even start accruing until after January 31st. We had total taxes for the M&O of $424,000 that's come in for the year. We received sales tax of $198,000, and then our interest income, which is $976 on our money market account. So that brings total revenue for up through February 28th of $623,400. Regular expenses that came out, there's not really anything that is unusual or higher than it normally is. You'll see that we did pay our insurance, which was $5,013. That's our one-year payment to them. On the side, I am trying to make notations if we have approved anything other than what I had in the budget. So you'll notice that we approved a floor buffer there, and then down at the bottom, the repair of the engine 8120. It's been approved for $15,000. We haven't spent anything. That's down at the very bottom. So there is an amount of $413,000 left after expenses for what we have. Again, we usually have a hefty balance at the beginning of the year because we have the rest of the year to pay out all the other expenses. If you turn on the back, you'll see that the INS account, our debt service, is in about the same shape. We received, for them, we received $26,000 in the month of February, bringing it to $78,600 of the $91,000 that we expect to get, which only leaves 14% for the rest of the year. With the other delinquent and penalty, we received $80,000. We paid out $39,000 in our monthly payments of $7,800, and so we have total expenditures of $39,000 and $41,000 over, which will be eaten up in the $7,800 payments that we make. You'll see our bank balances there. The American Momentum does have more money in it right now because of the influx of taxes. Our Security State Bank money market account is at $106,000. The INS account is at $82,000, and our Firehouse loan balance is $274,000. We should receive about $29,000 in sales tax, which comes in about now. As far as expenses, the bills to be paid, they're all normal. bills. There's not anything on there that's not. The 3 checks that would be written would be for Mesquite, for your bookkeeper, and for the quarterly payment to the appraisal district. And that brings the total pending to be paid out in March of $13,093.56.
Thank you, Nancy.
If you want to approve that, I do have one other item under my
Okay.
thing I wanted to mention.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report and pay the bills in the total of $13,093.56.
A second.
I have a motion to approve the treasury report and pay the bills, and I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
We had brought up a couple of months ago about our dumpster bill, and we were going to research and see what the new dumpster service would cost. Our payment for the month is $426, and that is pretty much staying there, or might increase slightly. I think that Ken did some work to find some other dumpster services so we could compare, and you might want to talk about that and decide if we want to go with a different dumpster service. So I'll let Ken tell you what he found.
So I reached out to STRD for a quote for dumpster service. Pick up 1 time a week for the same size 4 cubic yard dumpster. And they came in a little bit less than 426 at $159.98. Imagine that.
Wow.
And that's a month?
That's a lot.
Really?
It's not per time they pick it up.
Nope. That's
They're on the spot. They come every Tuesday at my house. Never missed a day.
Seems like a no-brainer.
If we can move on it, we need to put that on the agenda for next month.
Oh,
I don't know what you want to do with that.
Is it what? Is it?
Did you talk to Republic about our, what kind of contract, what kind of cancellation?
I did not.
Did you do that?
I don't have a contact for that.
I gave you that information. Yes, on the bill. It was on the bill.
Oh.
I don't know if it's a 30-day notice, or I think it probably is, but I'm not
So
positive.
to put that on for next month, I will have that information.
But we can, authorize to contact them and cancel service and do a contract with the other people, if we want to, but, or we can hold it till next month.
Well, I think we're gonna hold it, it's not even on our agenda, so can't act on it.
Yeah,
I
it's,
apologize, I do remember you sending me that. I will have it for next month.
I will have it on the agenda next month.
Okay, so we did approve the treasurer's report, right?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Okay, that takes us to the Devine Volunteer Fire Department, financial report, drum course.
I'll read the statement of activities first. For February 2025, the total revenue was $118,639.64. The total expenditures were $73,897.11. The net revenue was $44,742.43. The review statement of activities is for the academy. The bank has something and QuickBooks has something. So it'll show that. And for the academy, the bank is $8,763. QuickBooks is the same, $8,763, which is rare, but it's management and operations, the M&O bank account. In the bank it says $100,248.17, and in QuickBooks it says $122,627.99. And when I talked to Sophia about that, she said that the money comes in and out, and when it's posted, it's going to change. So it will do that. I did a comparison of the bank statement of accounts to QuickBook reconciliation report, which are these two. And, you know, the biggest expense that any organization has is payroll and personnel. So I looked to see if the checks that were here were also here, and they were 100%. You know, that was a good thing. And it also gave me a chance to look at some other things here, because there was a check to Morales, and I didn't understand why there would be a check to a feed store. But then after talking to Sophia, she reminded me about that they handle the account for the Fire Station 1 when they rent it. And so that's how it comes in under Morales versus the Station 1. I learned something. Right? And there were some other things, like there were some flowers and things like that, or from a flower shop or something that came in. And that was one of those things that there was a celebration here, and they were decorations, stuff like that.
The birth of the little baby back there.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right, yeah. On the, I looked at accounts receivable. Our current assets are $74,527.19. And the current, when you break down the current assets, the current amount is $22,226.67 of that $74,527, right? Then you go back in QuickBooks, and it's from 1 to 7 days, it gives you $10,666.67. And then for going back 8 to 14 days, it's $20 for our accounts receivable. And that's money that is coming to us. It's a good stuff, it's good for us. And then you go to the other side of it. Well, let me read what I wrote, just to make sure I'm clear. AR is funding owed to DVFD. Still waiting on looking at aging. Some old invoices need to be voided or deleted. All is pending on the cleanup being completed by our accounts manager. Sophia's working on that, so she'll continue doing that, and we'll report an update on that at the next meeting when we come here. In accounts payable, those are our current liabilities, it's our bills. The current is $8,200, oh no, I'm sorry. The current liabilities are $8,845. The current is $8,233. 1 to 7 days is $1,091.82. And 8 to 14 days is 0. So that's pretty good. And once again, AP is owed by DVFD. Some bills. The AP is also pending on the cleanup. And then I looked at an account, at this account textbook, it says, what tasks do you have that need to be finished based on, what's in QuickBooks. And it turns out that we're caught up on a task. We just got to look at the detail and figure out how to work with that. One of the other things that I did was, and this just happened recently, was that I looked at a report in QuickBooks. Let me see which one. In QuickBooks. And
Yes.
okay,
That was
that's
the statement of the agreement.
And there's a consolidated forecast program in there. What that does is it tells you, year to date what you spent, and then based on what you spend, it predicts what you might expect at the end of the year that you have. So one of the things that came out on that when I looked at it is that for the month of February, there was nothing in the accounts for ESD, and I kept looking to see, because you look in the reconciliation, you go back to other dates, and you see the ESD in there, right? But in February, there wasn't any. That's because ESD didn't pay the department anything. At least it wasn't noted yet for February. And then when you go at you look at the forecast in here, it shows a pattern. It shows that zero every once in a while. So I think this is a good thing to do because you can also base some of your future funding coming in. You kind of get an idea of where you're at, you know. If you're not getting at least that, then something's wrong. If you're getting more than that, then you got to figure out, you know, when do you spend that money, because you don't want to spend money that you have that's actually allocated to do something later on. The other thing I did was I looked at this. It's a management report, and in the management report, which is similar to the one that Sophia gave you, you look at where it says 320 MD ESD 2, and all it says is service contract. There's no breakdown, you know, for that in our financials. For me, if I look at financials and the ones that I used to look at when I was working, every one of them had a breakdown. You know, what was on the contract? What is it that you're supposed to be spending the money on, and how much, right? It's not there.
Interject there. Our contract is based on the budget that y'all gave us.
Oh, okay.
And so we don't break down what we're giving you as to what you're supposed to be spending it on. We're supposed to be comparing what's in the budget and what you're spending in those areas.
Okay. But-
And from what I understand, it's hard to do right now because the figures are not correct.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was wondering, you know, why wasn't it broken down like that? And I wasn't aware of the budget. I was aware of a contract, because when I looked at our financials, you know, there's nothing that says this is the ESD budget and this is what we have, right? If it's not there, it's not there. There's not, you can't really base your decisions on that.
They did present a budget this year. I know they did that before we
Right.
voted on it.
Yeah.
It was,
I have a copy of it.
Just hasn't been put in your
so, yeah.
reports or whatever.
So we're in the process of submitting an amended budget, and then the recent events happened. So in that process, when Ms. Sophia came on board, she has been doing all the reconciliations through all of the books, and she's pretty much almost done. I know that Mrs. Pepper sat in with her. So we've also consulted with a couple of other professionals for resolutions. So we have, and I know Mr. Henry brought up a bunch of different outcome plans that we can set in place, so that way our books are better presented, so that way you guys can actually have a breakdown of this is the money that we're getting from you guys, and what it's actually being spent on. Because, yeah, no, and the other people also agreed that the books weren't done correctly. And, you know, you've never actually worked with QuickBooks, and probably wouldn't know the difference. But we have made plans, and we have them in place so that way we can.
Well, when we were looking at these things, we started thinking about, like with me, my experience, you know, when you got to do something, if you don't have a plan, you have no way to chart what your course is. So we put together this plan, and can you share? Oh, she's got a principal with very much. Can you share this one?
So we make copies for you guys, that way y'all are aware. We have all of the plans, as well as 90-day breakdowns, just doing the assessments, so that way we can see if it's actually working, or if we have to move to a separate one.
Yeah, once again, the plan for updating the accounting process for the non-volunteer fire, we sat down and started thinking about, okay, we've gotten this far, and we know that things aren't right. So do we sit here and go, or do we put together something and try to follow it and see where we go from there? On this plan, there isn't I didn't put anything in the time frame because that's something we've got to look at, you know. And
It's definitely a lot of
so, but the thing is though, that we have something to guide us. And please understand that none of us are accountants or anything like that. So we were able to do the research to see what are the kind of things we have to do in order to get to where we want to get. So please don't take this as a professional thing, because it's not. It's something that we feel that we can do, and we'll be reporting on it as we do.
One thing that we need to make sure of is that this, getting the books straight is a priority with y'all, because
The number
that,
one.
yeah, that's going to affect the audits that are being done and the forensic audit that is going to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
It's going to be very difficult for them to do it if the books are in all kinds of
Yes, ma'am.
shambles.
And
It sounds like Sophia, I mean, who has a lot of years' experience, is a long way from where it
Yes,
was.
yes.
yes,
At least moving in the right direction.
yes, very much so. We're very, very grateful.
That's one of the things that we talked about as a team. Is I think it's like on the last page, second to last page, about creating a finance committee that was with the staff, and not necessarily a firefighting finance committee, but seeing if there's volunteers out there that would want to come in that understand the accounting and financial things, to work with us and work with Sophia, so that hopefully we can get more input and work on this faster. So that's one of those. You can read this once again. It wasn't something that, And the final thing I've got to talk about is, we also looked at, for the department, what do we got to do, right? What do we got to do? And the thing is that if we don't get the whole department involved, then it doesn't make any sense, because, you know, they're not going to own it because they didn't contribute to it, you know. And so this 90-day plan, we put it together, we broke it down to 30, 60, and, I'm sorry, I thought you had it.
Pull it up.
Yeah.
We broke it down into 30, 60, and 90 days, and we're gonna go through this process and then start ensuring that our bylaws are where they should be, and there are items that maybe we didn't consider that we should have considered this time around. So
Who came up with this?
we did, our team did.
That's like,
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. And that's all I've got.
yes, sir. The run report for the month of February, we had 98 calls. Year-to-date was 209. Mutual aid out of district was 4. In district, we had 94 calls. Mutual aid called in for 3 of them. We had 1 structure fire, 3 grass fires. 80 were to assist EMS. MVCs with no injuries was 1. MVCs with injuries was 2. 3 fire alarms, 2 vehicle fires, 1 dispatched and canceled en route, and 1 gas alarm.
You guys had to ask for assistance on one of them, outside assistance, is that what? You responded to someone else?
Yes.
Okay.
3 of the calls, mutual aid was called in. It was mainly high-risk fire days for grass fires.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
On your, on this plan here, I saw on page 2, Under activity, it says establish separate dedicated businesses, accounts by revenue source. If needed, open a separate checking account for each business account.
And is that the one that has all the asterisks on it? There's one that has...
One down below.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Just the second page there. All this right here.
I didn't...
Is that something that you feel you will be implementing on your
So,
own?
with
So it could be
the,
3?
so with the separate accounts, so I was looking back and in June, the June 12th, 2023 business meeting that the department had, there was discussions of creating brand new 2 separate bank accounts because cost was getting expensive or something. They didn't really
That was me.
further, oh, yeah, to close the other accounts. So
Which other account?
that they had a grant account, an academy account, and then the M&O account.
Okay.
So there was motions to just have the 2 separate bank accounts. So like, I wasn't there, so I can't really say why or anything, but we noticed that on QuickBooks, as long as the class, as long as you input it as this money is going to that ESD class, it doesn't necessarily need to be out of, onto a different bank account, but it is one of the options that we have, so that way, if needed, we can just open up a separate bank account in general.
I think based off of everything that has been going on and concerns, I think that open account needs to be, we need to look at opening that account. Y'all need to look at opening up that account,
Okay.
separate from everything else.
For the ESD.
Yeah, that was my recommendation in that meeting, to have separate accounts so that you could really see if the academy was self-sustaining or not. And because everything was convoluted in that one account and you just saw the dollar figure that you
At the end
had,
of
you
it.
never knew what was what.
That way you can show checks out of that account and
Right.
account for every bit of ESD money.
Yeah, I
Can I
agree.
still
With little I know about QuickBooks, I'm not an accountant. I know everybody looks at me, you're a financial guy, too, totally different. I'm not an accountant, and I don't know how to use QuickBooks. But I do know that, to your point, yes, you can go in and code things, and you can separate it and keep it all separate. But then again, if you're not coding and keeping it separate, then it all gets,
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
legal.
And
Yeah.
that's what we were seeing, and so when Sophia was looking at everything, she's like, you have way too many extra expense accounts, and you just have all of this added stuff, which makes looking at our budget reports just completely complicated, and probably the reason that things happened the way that they did. But no, and that's why that is absolutely an option for us, because of the fact that we want to be as thorough as we can, so that stuff like this doesn't ever happen again.
We discussed
In the
that
past,
several months
they have,
about doing that.
Do what?
they have talked about that. We talked with them on the board quite a bit about that. At one time, they were separate. They had someone that advised them they could be put together. Even our auditor said they could be put together. There was no reason. So they were getting advice from people that are in the business, telling that
Sure.
it could be done that way.
Understand.
So in their defense, they were trying to,
Well,
follow
I'm
what they
not
were being
trying
told.
to be difficult here from what I'm talking about, but I guess that the advisors do all that, but we have funds that are mingled together. We don't know where anything went.
Yes, sir.
You know, at some point, there's no checks and balance. I mean, I know we're trying to, like we talked about the other night, we're moving forward.
Yes, sir.
But we still have to talk about the past and what they brought us up to this point. And I think, I've talked, there's been some discussion, and I remember even a few months ago, there was some conversations that, oh, well, there's an auditing nightmare, and it's this and that. At the end of the day, I'm not concerned about who's doing the audit. I'm concerned about the taxpayers' money on what we're putting in, based off of what the contract
I think
stipulates.
especially now that we're doing kind of a cleanup.
So
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
another question I would have is, if you all had a separate bank account for ESD funds, it might simplify reporting to the ESD,
Yes, sir.
in that you might not need to report does that sound right? You would need to
because
report to us what
ESD
you're
money
doing with
should,
our money.
ESD money should not be used to fund the academy.
No, which it doesn't.
and should, so that's, but again,
that's easy.
that is
So the
coming
academy
under.
is no longer our business, is that
No,
correct?
but,
Right.
so it's, but it's come under question, and so
Right.
by having separate, it's real easy to answer that question, I guess
Yes,
is my
sir.
point. I think that's what Jerry's
Yeah.
trying to say.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir, absolutely.
I was gonna ask, based on, especially those of you that have had some experience with this accounting part regarding separating the accounts. I remember when I was working, we had we got $1 million grant to do a clinic in Victoria. And it came from one of the companies from there, it was Valero. And what we did was, for that company, and for that, to ensure that their money was there, because they required that in the grant, we opened up an account in a different bank, and it was completely separate from anything else. So there was no way they could go in, and that's part of what we had talked about, is opening an account. But do you all think that we need to go use another bank, or do we open another company in the same bank?
No, I would think
No,
just.
I wouldn't think another bank, just separate.
Just a separate account.
No reason you'd have to be doing all that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Granted, it's not very far.
Yeah, okay.
One of the biggest things that you have to look at is your accounting controls. Who approves things and who writes the check or does it, you know, ACH or whatever, and then who signs off on that and who signs the checks. That way you don't have problems if you have good controls that the same person that writes a check doesn't sign the check or,
Yes.
you know, whatever. So
Yeah, like
that's
for us
what it
here,
is.
you know, Nancy presents the bills, we review them, we all, as a group, agree we're gonna pay them, and then two people have to sign the check. So there's good controls there.
And so the way that we've been doing it, so for, like, long as I've been here. But I know that right now, currently, Sophia shows the bills. Hey, this is everything that's getting paid. You know, these have the accounts that can go straight from our QuickBooks, so that way there's not like the check or anything. But even then, she is allowed to call the bank and request bank statements or information. She is not an authorized signer. So she prints out the checks and everything. The authorized signers are the ones who sign, and then she sends out the checks.
So has that process been in place for as long as it has? The reason I asked the question, because I think there's been some comments made that
So
that was
there's-
not in place.
There's always been two signers for each check.
It has.
There's always been that in place. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
If that's the case, how would an electronic funds?
Hadn't been followed.
Do what?
Has something been put in place to
Yes.
present,
It wasn't
provide
followed.
that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You guys, did anybody else have?
That was it. That's,
Being that we're on the
Great job.
volunteer fire department, I do have a question. What steps or what are your thoughts? What are you guys doing about replacing the chief? Where are you at on that? I'd be curious what you guys are thinking, because we've got some things to think about too when it comes to the chief, so, the chief.
So at this point, now that the dust is settling, or for us, the smoke is clearing, you know, we had to take it, we had to get all this, which we had no clue. You know what I mean? That this wasn't, we're smoke eaters. You know, this is not our forte, is the QuickBooks. The good thing about it was, once the first incident happened, we were able to turn it around, get somebody that was really qualified, come in here. She came in the door, and the very next day, passwords were given, she was set up on her computer, and she went right to work. There was no training, there was no bad habits that we showed her, this is what we want, or teaching her how we wanted things done. She came in, started cleaning up, doing her thing. Now with the Chiefs incident, we went through the process quickly as possible. and as quietly as possible because it's still an ongoing investigation, of course. We were very limited to our information, but I was assured that it had been checked 3 times before it was even made public. So they had their case already. So then when I met with my board and I explained my actions to them, because I wasn't even at liberty to speak about it to my board. So then we acted as quickly as possible to start out the process, and we followed our bylaws. We went back to our bylaws instead of using emotion or anger or anything like that. And we suspended him at that point. That was our first action. We consulted our attorneys. We asked for guidance on that part, because the last thing we want to do is to act unaccordingly, and then all of a sudden we're facing wrongful termination or wrongful something, a backlash. So once we got into that position and our attorneys advised us, he reached out to his attorney and went back and forth, and he submitted his resignation, which made it a lot easier on our part. Once that cleared up, we started talking to our command staff to move up a little bit. We needed to keep the doors open. We needed to keep the wheels turning. Of course, 911 does not stop because of one person getting gone. So we made sure that everybody was in place that could lead us into the next day. At that point, the board said we're going to have to revisit this because these are interim positions. So at this point, where we're at is basically getting ready for the board to meet and deciding, now that our heads are clear, to make a decision of, are we opening up the chief position for a hire? Because technically, the board hires and fires the chief. From there, he or she gets their command staff underneath them and builds them up. Okay. So our next task in hand is to vote on a unanimous vote for us to open to the public everywhere around us to bring in interview applicants for the chief position. At that point, once we get that in place, and then we'll set up the interviews and go through screening out the candidates. And this time, now that we have a good working set of bylaws with what we decided on, and we had already been working on one to bring up the requirements. The requirements were very low, especially for a position like that. It was almost like anybody that was here maybe 4 to 5 years of firefighting could actually probably do it, under the old bylaws. And then, so we've moved up the standards. We've all agreed to the standards of moving up the standards before this incident even happened. So that's where we're going to go based off of. Because we want a highly qualified person to lead us into the future. That's our main thing, is lead us in the future with integrity. And that's going to be our big push, is going to be that they're going to have to lead us with integrity and lead us the right way. Because I do not want to go through this again. Okay. That's
what I wanted to hear, is kind of what you guys were thinking, and I wanted to know that we're opening it up to the public first.
Yes.
You made that decision. You haven't made that decision yet.
No, we have not, because
Okay.
right now
Your board has to vote, and you got to.
we got to come together, and we got a unanimous vote for us to do it.
Yeah.
Because I want everybody to have a say in it. And then from there, we'll open it up as quickly as possible. Then we'll go out, probably open it up for 2-3 weeks, let it out for everybody to have a chance. We'll take in the applications, we'll review for a week, and then from there, we'll set up interviews, and then we'll start checking credentials.
So you mentioned something First off, let me just say, I thought you handled yourself very well the other night at your meeting. I was there present, so
Thank you.
answered a lot of good questions. And I think the process of moving forward needs to be not a thorough process. You talked about credentials. Who handles that background? If I can ask that question, as far as, you get down to a certain number of folks or whatever, you're screening them, you're running, at some point, there's got to be some background checks.
Yes.
Checking credentials. I mean, I know this is prior to the current board, but my understanding is previously, we didn't really do a thorough, maybe that's because the bylaws were weak, whatever that case may be. I'm not here to discuss that. I'm just saying, how do you prevent or ensure that the applicant, whomever they may be, he or she, is the most qualified? And if you went to the board to make that decision, who's doing all that in the background?
So on the background part, on the criminal activity, my plans are to enlist the sheriff department. I've worked closely with them so far, and I'm going to enlist them to take care of any criminal actions, any deep dive search that they do. They have the authority. They can give the yay or nays of this one might be questionable, this one is squeaky clean. So then that goes into the next one. Then we go into CCSP certifications. Then we go into which is as easy as looking up the person's name to see if what they have achieved at this point. If we would look at Pat's, it'd probably be like this long, But it was scribed. It was still scribed.
That's information you got. You have access.
You have
Yes.
access.
Yes.
You want to make sure that, they're qualified, but
Yes,
also.
it's not as easy as duplicating, like my certificate. It's not as easy as me handing it off to somebody. They take off my name and forging it because it's not going to pop up.
We can look through the state's website, through the NREMT website, and also through the TCFP FIDO
So
to make
that
sure.
talks about the certification first, but how do they handle as far as how they handle themselves,
That's,
publicly, HR issues, stuff like that? Is that something else?
So then we're going to go back as far as on their references. We're going to go back and whatever the law allows us to ask,
Right.
we're going to go that far. We're not just going to be like, okay, look, this person's perfect on paper, but yet when we call the old employer, they're like, not rehireable. Okay, so there's a reason why they're not rehireable. So that's a big red flag for us from this point on. So we're going to go deeper into the references. We're going to go into our interview process. Of course, we're going to do the behavioral interview questions to see how they do. Now, I know that those aren't 100%,
I understand.
but that's our focus right now. And realistically, we're going to try to make the best decision out there. And of course, we got 90 days. We got 90 days. We'll put them on a probationary period. And if we have to start all over again, we'll start all over again. We just want somebody to come in here that's going to be, that's going to fit in with our culture, our town, and lead us forward. Because if they come in here looking for the money or a feather in their hat to get to the next level, we don't want that. As long as I am president, I won't allow it.
It's not an easy task. And when I've done a lot of interviews and hired people over my career, and it's never easy. You're doing the best that you can in the time frame that you have in
Yes,
that
sir.
process, and you don't always get it. Even when you do background and do verifications, you do the best that you can. And that's all I think that's what we want is you following that process. And this information, Robert, I think helps us provide that even for the community.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. It's not going to be an easy process. It's not going to be an easy task for any of us. But we owe it to our community for that. But we have to make sure we check every box that we can possibly. Because the last thing we want is like, why wasn't this done? Right. And the last thing I want to say is like, I don't know.
Right.
I thought, I'm not going to think. It's either going to be done or not.
Yes, sir. Good. Very good.
Can I ask you a question? So somebody sent my sister a copy of the bylaws that y'all just approved, and the only requirements for fire chief is a basic firefighter certification and 8 years of experience. That's all your requirements are. When I wrote those requirements years ago, I mandated much more stringent things. Did y'all change this from what was
Yes,
there?
we were in the process of changing. Okay, so that was the old one.
No, this is the proposed 24 bylaws that was sent to her.
Yes, we're in that process right now. We're in that process right now. So we were looking at this, and then we went line by line by line on all the bylaws, even to the verbiage. And I can quote to you on one was harassment. It was firefighter on firefighter, right? And in the verbiage, it said that. And I was totally against it. The rest of the members were against it because when I explained to them, since we have an auxiliary group, since we have an academy, so if I were to harass my wife, which is an auxiliary member, and they came at me to write me up, the bylaws protect me because she's not a firefighter. So we changed down to every word, and we're in the process. It's a working process because we're having to revamp all the bylaws. Now, we're going through it.
Oh, I thought you just said y'all approved them.
Well, we approved to move on to the next section.
Okay.
And then, so then we're gonna get through the whole bylaws part, and we're gonna go back. Because when we're doing this at 3 to 4 hour, time frame. So it gets to the point where we're just like, okay, over and over and over, right? And we might get stuck on a subject, like qualifications. And we're like, no, we need this, we need that. Then all of a sudden we look back and we're like, okay, well, why does a captain have more qualifications than a chief does? Oh, you're right. Let's go back to that. We need to step it up all the way up as we go up the ladder. And then we were starting off with the engineer spot. So we were starting off from engineer to a lieutenant, from a lieutenant to a captain, from captain to assistant chief, and assistant chief to a chief. So everything that starts off from the very bottom as an engineer, everything has to be doubled up for the next level, doubled up for the next level, and doubled up. Because we want the requirements, we want anybody and everybody that comes here to volunteer and wants to achieve a goal. We want them to achieve it, but we want them to be the best they can be at that level. Some people just want to come here and fight fires. Some people say, hey, I don't even want to go to a structure fire. That's okay. We got a lot of grass fires. And they're happy with that. Some people say, I want to be a career person, I want to do this and maybe go somewhere else, later on and go somewhere else. So then we'll try to get them into a career path to build them up, where they get the experience, they get the leadership qualities. We'll mentor them. We'll put them with somebody else that has a better leadership, quality. And then from there, we develop not only their certifications, but their leadership mentality of going to the next step.
Part of every process or every improvement is recognizing you have an issue, right? And so it sounds like you guys have done that, and you're working through that step. And then, of course, we have to look at it from the board as how can we assist you in that, or how can we, make some changes on our side that would hold your feet to the fire to make sure you do those things. And that's some of the things we have to come up with. But I'll commend you for recognizing you have a problem. It seems like you're at least trying to move in that direction. But finding a chief obviously is important. Somebody who's qualified that takes you guys there. If I could, I'd recommend you guys reach out to some of the other successful fire departments here, ESD 1, talk to them, okay? Get some help there as well. They may enlighten you on some things.
Yes.
There.
So it's not the bylaws will be, you're correct on the bylaws
Yes.
before moving forward with.
We should have already had our first reading by now. We should have already had our first reading, because we were doing very well moving along. But then we've had two major hiccups. To the point where our board has been busy dealing with those two hiccups and trying to move forward from those. then, because the whole board was focused on revamping the bylaws and setting the new, basically our thing was, we're gonna set the new standard
Good.
for the next 5 years at least, you know, before somebody else comes in behind us and sets higher standards and continues the growth and adaptivity of the community and what's needed at that time.
Well, let me just say one more thing. I'll commend Jessica. I know taking over that role as interim is probably not a very easy task. Even though you, as the assistant, you know, you got the chief right there and, you know, you're there to support them, but when you're the individual that has to take on the role and take this department moving forward, I commend you and congratulate you on it. And, you know, I know it's, just take it one day at a time and things will work. We'll get better.
Thank you.
Great job. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys. Okay, moving on to old business. I'm gonna skip A just for a second, because Kim's thinking over. Website information, we can make progress on that?
Yes, I talked to her, and Abby talked to her also, and we just have to get her the payment and the contract back from them. First, we'll get the contract, and then we make the payment for that.
Did we confirm what we thought that next level was them doing?
Yes.
Yes. She said she'll back in to train any of us that want it. And I said, well, I'll probably want it. I don't know if y'all want it, but that way if we need to post for an emergency meeting and we just want to just get in there and do it. But otherwise, that it would just be, you would have an email address and you could send it.
So you send it to them and they would,
Take care of it.
they'll make sure it's on the website.
It'll be turnkey like we wanted.
Very nice.
Okay.
And I'm thinking you'll do the contract and get everything signed, and then once she starts asking for information, that can come to me.
Right.
So we're gonna
That's what
team on it.
We're gonna team up on
We're
it.
waiting on the contract before we vote on that.
Oh, that's already been
We've got
approved.
the contract.
The
and it's approved.
3,500?
That's right, we did the 35, okay. All right, so that's good.
We just need to get their
Okay.
paperwork back to Lisa.
Financial audit for the Ryan Volunteer Fire Department. I know they're working on 23,
They haven't
20,
started working.
No, but I mean, but they're-
That's 22, 23.
22, 23.
They have to get the previous year done before they can start 23, 24.
Okay. So,
But they have the information to get started.
right, okay. They have the information for 20,
223.
22, 23, and then they'll finish that and go to 23, 24. We've already put those wheels in motion, in other words.
Yeah, once they get 22, 23 done, they'll give us another engagement letter for 23, 24. They did say that Xavier said he would come down and spend the day with Sophia and Jessica and, you know, go through the books with them and,
Okay.
you know, get the information that he might be missing.
Okay. And we have discussed and let them know how we voted on the,
But they need to talk with you.
yeah, on the forensics audit, and they want to have a discussion with me, which I will do that before they do that. And again, they're going to be out a little ways before they get started on that. We've already told them and let them know how we voted on that, but that's going to be done.
But some of it may affect the way they do the audit, or
Right.
financial audit, may be able to gain some of that information.
Yeah. Okay. Floor buffer update?
If the
Did Captain Lucia say anything about that buffer?
I have a proposal. I wasn't sure if you sent that to him or if he had sent it to you. I grabbed it.
I gave him some information on a possible buffer, but that was, you
So-
can look into it.
The ESD had approved an amount that the fire department could order up to that amount.
2,000.
And then,
Okay.
was it 2,000? And then we would reimburse, just because we know that you all have to order a lot of times on the internet, or
Yes.
online.
Again, the idea behind that is we've been told
Get
and
it
all
while
that
it's a
you
good
guys
price.
can maintain the floors, that we don't have to have them waxed and
Yes.
buffed and stripped every month.
Because it
Save
would
money.
be beautiful
Yeah.
after. But if that's the one that, and if it's good with you, and if he gives
Yeah.
all clear that,
Basically, it was a place that has a bunch of the refurbished
Yes.
and good shape and whatnot.
Yes.
And so just requires going down there and picking one out,
okay, then,
Up to $2,000?
up to $2,000.
And then I'll go back to A, which is the ISO report, which we have a proposed, from the company here, contract to do that, to get that started.
So-
ISO Slayer, and they're saying that they'll do it for $6,000 plus any lodging bills and whatnot, and that they would have to present invoices for
We
that.
have a lodge here in Devine.
No. Yeah, we do, we got people see down there.
Yeah.
They're actually not that
Send them
bad.
to
I
your
went and looked
house.
at them on, son was getting married, because whoever bought it went in and like cleaned them up real nice, all new mattresses, everything is actually not pet. Believe it or not.
So we made contact with him, he said that it would take him maybe about a week, and sat down with us.
4 days of his time is he thrown in
Yes,
here.
4 days of his time.
Personal.
Yeah, and he was very specific. But yes, he gave a punch list of everything he would need. He said that he previously sent a thumb drive that had some information on it. He's gonna send us a new one, and we're basically,
This is something we had already approved
We approved the, yeah.
a long time ago.
Anybody else need to look at it?
the previous
No, I've got
contract
everybody look at
was from January or something, and I had just found it and made contact with him, and that's when he sent us the updated one, just to be sure that we had the updated one.
So I don't know if you have any information, Captain DeLucia, we were talking about looking at the old ISO report and seeing how much has changed.
Yes.
Have some of those things already been looked at?
He gave us the steps to contact ISO and get information from them about the previous one. So we're in the process of working
Because
with
you
that.
you have a copy of the last one.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember us speaking about that.
Yeah.
And they can't use it as a base, but it was a
They
great,
told us, yeah.
it was a great comparison on how we've evolved from the last one to this hopefully new one.
And that was our conversation. If there's something that maybe still is like it was back then,
Yes.
it might be something you'd knock out and that would give us points.
Yes, as long as we,
That's what I was-
as long as we were showing progress with it. If we had got the ISO report, as long as we had tried to correct it or
Because
correct
there's some
it.
things that are out of your control.
Yes.
That are either
City.
Yeah.
Under the city.
the water, the dispatching.
Dispatch, I believe, is much better than it was
I'm hoping,
back then.
Yes.
yeah. Hopefully, yes.
I did a personal tour.
All right. We have lots and generator updates available. Anything on that? We know, have they done the work? We know what they did?
They completed it.
Completed the work? Okay.
It was the water jacket here.
Okay. Okay. And that's for the backup generator. Yeah. Had an issue. All right. Engine 8120 update.
So we took it to Metro Fire in San Marcos, because they told us that they had the availability and they would be able to get us in and it would be less costly. We took it, I believe we're at 3 weeks now and they haven't touched it. So we're gonna go grab it and bring it back because Chief DeLucia is actually up at the EVT conference right now, and he was showing the issues to the EVT mechanics that are there. And he has people closer that will be able to do the work for us. So instead of just having it sit and not
Yeah.
being worked on anyway, we're just gonna go back and grab it.
We'd also discussed the maintenance records. We were talking about maintenance records for that vehicle, and if those maintenance records go with it to whoever's working on it.
From Metro Fire?
Whoever it goes to, wherever
Okay.
you guys end up taking the fire truck to,
Mhm.
if you could show them the records, they would give us an assessment.
Oh, yes, so they did say that they would be able to give us the assessment, they just haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay.
But yes, no, absolutely, we'll make sure that
Awesome.
the records go with them.
Okay.
Do you have any updates on the homestead in 065? All we have to do is give them
I think
we-
the minutes have to be
Official minutes.
approved, and once they were
Yeah.
taken
We
into
approved
the
minutes.
appraisal district.
Yes, I'll take approved minutes.
All we have to do is give them the approved minutes.
So, yeah, basically, I was just gonna update everybody and say, we approved minutes at today's meeting, so
Yeah.
next thing.
And Jerry's not even here.
He got it passed on our side.
He heard it was passed, he's like, I don't need to talk.
All right, firehouse shower. Thank you, Jeff. Where'd it go? Yeah, oh, here it is, right here. So I got an estimate on that, and sadly, I still find this hard to believe that the person who came out and looked at it said there was no backer board, no concrete backer board behind that. They just put.
Oh, wow.
I have seen them use, there's a sheetrock, that's a moisture barrier sheetrock, but if you use that, you're supposed to put a rubber like sealant around the whole thing. It doesn't sound like that was done.
Love contractors.
Yeah.
Lowest bidder.
And also said that they were using, what you basically call a non-porous grout. So in a shower, it should be a very dense grout that will not take on moisture. So bottom line is, if we're going to fix that shower properly so that it can be used and it's not leaking and ruining more of the house.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry. We sealed it. We put the sealant on it, so for right now, at least there's no more
Not leaking.
damage. Yeah.
Okay. But
This is the price to replace both showers.
this is for both showers, $3,702.15, which
That ain't
for
bad.
2 showers, I think.
I thought it was just one.
I thought it was just one, too. And even with one, I'm thinking, well, they gotta tear it all out and start over, that's not bad even, but
Yeah.
with 2 showers, that's really not bad.
How's the kitchen backsplash?
So, yeah, I see that now, 2 showers,
Yep.
so, wow.
Looked at one and then we looked at the other one and it was the
I
same.
figured it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
That's him. He's in Lytle, I believe.
Oh, Lionel, yeah.
Can we ask them to put their names on?
Yes, we can. It's got that's their symbol right here.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
And when you get it up close, it's Smith and Myers
Myers
Home Remodeling.
Home Remodeling.
Bob's shower service.
All right, well, yeah, we need a motion to approve this, we haven't done this.
I make a motion to accept the proposal to remodel the 2 showers, remove and install the 2 showers.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second, any discussion?
Well,
No?
we made a
great.
motion that we would fix them. Do you want to include the quote?
Yes, include the quote, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, that's what I
Please.
fix the showers for $3,702.15.
They gave a first responder discount, $111.35. All right, I have a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries, thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're moving on to new business. And so I've had some discussions with our attorney, Kim Campbell. Like most people know, we use Kim Campbell. And he's brought some things to light, and I've brought some things to him about our contract with the fire department. And for this particular session, and I promise it won't be awfully long, but it's been requested that we go into closed session to discuss the legal side of this, and we're going to do that. And I know nobody out there likes that, but we won't leave you hanging here for a long time, but just there's some things that they all want to discuss and things that I've discussed with Kim Campbell. And the only legal way we can all get together and discuss it.
So you guys are,
Yeah, we're gonna go on the radio.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, you can stay here, we're gonna go on the radio. Yeah,
there's, okay.
yeah. No, that's what I was like, what are we gonna do? Because there's no place, around here.
Here's the chair's already in there for you guys.
Yes.
So this is not a secure room for them to talk. We have a camera.
All right, sorry. We're back in session at 21:52.
Actually, that's 2050.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, 2052.
Yeah, 20:52.
Sorry about that,
Yeah,
sir.
20:52.
We keep changing the clock. Those Gen Zers don't know how to fix the clock.
If somebody needs to get rid of this chair, because it's really bad.
We're so
slowly getting there.
It'd been nice if the executive session would have been. Oh, that's okay.
Okay, guys, we're going to go back to session, appreciate it. Just some of the things we've been talking about. Oh, who is what? Oh, she does, okay, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. All good. First off, to go to Ken Campbell's public comments, those are a little, kind of a day late and a dollar short. He was supposed to have those prior to our last meeting, and so there's really, anyways, they're late. So, I guess my point is, we were trying to get out in front of the charges and different things that we had, and didn't know what we could say and couldn't say, and so we had asked him, hey, will you just prepare something that we can say? And, well, it was really to be said at the last meeting, and we didn't have it, so anyways, that's that. The biggest thing we talked about was Devine Fire Department contract. Something in light of all the things that have been going on is that we have also reached out to Ken Campbell, our attorney, and want to discuss renegotiating the contract with the fire department, okay? And doing that in a means that would just, if there is a way through the contract to make sure some of these things don't happen again, that we discuss that and review that and make sure it's in there, and then come back to you guys and present that. And so that's what we're doing, and that's not done yet. We will have that, and we will re-enter that with you guys and come back to you and let you know, and obviously that'll be a back and forth of us trying to figure that out, okay?
Yes, sir.
Some of the things we all agreed that we would like to see is there's been a lot of talk about maintenance and maintenance records on the trucks, okay? I can remember when Greg got here, he used to complain all the time and said the previous chief never did any maintenance on any of the vehicles. You know, I can remember him in here telling us that. And then he was telling us how great of a job he was doing. Well, it was said the other night that no maintenance has been done on the trucks since Greg's been here, okay? So we would like to see, I don't know what you guys have, but if you have them, we would love to see maintenance records on the equipment for the last 3 years, okay? If you have that. That will help us to see what's out there, okay? And then, of course, this will be something probably in our negotiation for the contract, but the bottom line is the equipment, you know, belongs to the ESD. You guys are using it, and so going forward, we're certainly going to start pushing harder and requiring maintenance records and proof that you're doing preventive maintenance on the equipment, okay, to maintain it. We also are, and I know we discussed in here earlier, we're going to stand steadfast on you guys having a separate account for the ESD dollars that are coming in that align with the budget that you present to us, okay? And I think y'all have your hands on that budget, you can get that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
By when?
Oh,
We have the check possibly the next meeting.
yeah, we have 30 days, and that should be more than enough time for you guys to open a separate account and get that started. So one of the other things that was brought up, when we think about our contract, the ESD's contract, the taxpayer's contract is with the fire department. It's with the fire department, it's not with the fire chief, okay? It's with the fire department, and the fire department, I believe, is if I have your hierarchy proper, the board is here and the chief is here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Yes. Okay. So we would certainly, and I know, Robert, since you've been here, I recognize that you've been here and present most of the time. We certainly would want to consider going forward is insist that somebody, board president or representative of the board is here, okay? Because we see that it's you that we should be asking questions to. Now, if you want to defer, we ask questions, you defer, if Patrick's the chief and you defer to the chief, said, hey, I'm going to defer that to the chief because he knows that better than I do and he wants to answer those questions, then great. But we feel like there should be a more direct communication between the board and the ESD, okay? I think that in itself there could have helped some of what went on because as you guys know, it was always the chief and the chief ran everything, okay? And so
We had a command staff meeting, and I put the same thing in place. Mr. President was to be the main contact for the ESD board.
okay. And then We also, several of the members were just, I think it was more of a curiosity, just wanted to know, how many paid positions do you guys have? Do you know that off the top of your head? If you don't, you can.
8.
8? Okay. Okay.
There's how many firefighters?
It's the 6 full-timers, myself, Chief DeLucia, and Sophia. I'm sorry, 9 then.
Okay.
But there would be 10 with the new chief.
No, all the same positions.
No.
No, all the same.
All the same positions, yes. And even then, DeLucia isn't he's only stipend pay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so technically,
Yes, I
8.
gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. In light of what's been going on with the former chief of this firehouse, I know in the years that I've been here, almost every time somebody is laid off or fired, I get a visit. And they come to me because they always assume that I can do something about it, okay? And in light of some of the charges and what has happened with the fire chief and us believing there's been some inappropriate activity, we would just ask and curious, has the board considered going back and looking at many of the people that were laid off after the last few years to determine whether that was really justified and/or those firefighters that maybe it wasn't justified and you could bring back?
We have talked about that because it has raised a lot of questions, just as you say right now. We have sat in that room and spoken freely amongst us. And that has been one of our subjects. Was there somebody targeted? Was there somebody that was pushed out? Was there, whatever it may be,
Some of the accusations and some of the comments that have come to me from many different people is that he pushed out anybody who questioned him. Anybody who questioned his authority or even the slightest, that they were pushed out. And so, again, we're just saying in light of the charges that are out there, and we find out that he himself was not acting professionally, it's worth a second look. I mean, obviously, I know you guys know better than we, but you need all the firefighters you can get if they're qualified and want to be here.
on that, I can honestly say, I can put myself as an example on that. Pat was still here, because I was just a regular firefighter in the cheap seats, and I would question things. That was before I even had a position that had any, authority. I questioned a lot, I never felt like I was being pushed out. So there are some certain things that are true and some, some people.
And again, from my personal experiences, everybody that came to me, they were a disgruntled employee, right? They had been let go. So you got to kind of take a lot of that with a grain of salt sometimes, what you hear. But I just thought it was brought up here. Just wanted to know, maybe it's something you guys reconsidered or thought. I don't know. And I always was under the impression that the board was informed on every person that was let go. Or was the chief? No, not always the case.
So, not
Okay.
always before.
So then in my eyes, the one I'd be looking at are the ones that the board wasn't involved in, and it was just the chief, get rid of them.
And that has been the questions, and I know Henry can attest to that we've had numerous conversations of like,
Yeah.
was this happening?
I think I'd be, we would need to, of course, this is the board's responsibility, but I think there's been some, folks making sure that if there was just a chief getting rid of them, their concern is they may not want to come back, but making sure that they're able to go somewhere else and that their record is not tainted, if you will,
Yes.
or tarnished
Yes.
because of how the chief felt about
Yes.
that
What
individual.
not necessarily tarnished.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, also whether the proper documentation was in place
True.
for the termination.
They can come back and y'all.
And again, those are things that normally I wouldn't question. You guys run your firehouse, you fire who you want to fire and whatnot, but again, in light, and a lot of people's come to him, they come to me, and so I just think it's a fair question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The last thing you guys mentioned, and I know Chief Atkins kind of started this policy, you guys are making a lot of EMS calls. Way more than you are fire calls. And so it was brought up, the board kind of questions that is, why is that important? Why is it necessary? And is it a necessary expense on the equipment here for you guys to be making all these EMS calls when we have ESD4 right there?
Well, a lot of the calls that we were making before October, either there was an ambulance out, so they would call us as mutual aid, but also if they were barely coming back from San Antonio and they had an extended ETA, we would make scene first. So now it's more of just a partnership with ESD4. We do it as a courtesy also to the community because of the fact that, I mean, even if they are right behind us, we usually get there first. And we just want to make sure that our patients are taken care of.
It makes it for a quicker response sometimes, because let's say it's a person on 5710. We can be out the door within under 2 minutes with our staff now. And let's say ESD4 is coming off of 35. They can still make it through town. Now, I know it's not traffic, San Antonio traffic, but they're still making their way in a safe manner. So one of our vehicles or our personnel can be there already, starting the blood pressure, starting, and actually relay back to them. It could be their first eyes.
And ESD4 is okay with this? I mean, I say ESD, the paramedics and all,
Yes.
they're on board with what you guys are doing, and
We've been building a great bridge on that, because they even come over and help us with training for
They come
our
help with
EMTs
training.
and stuff like that.
They've invited us over to dinner. We bring them over for dinner here. We do multiple trainings.
And I get it, in most major fire departments, those two are combined. Like you look at San Antonio, all that, they all work together. So it was just,
Yes.
it's a question. I mean, for us, it's a question, thinking about the equipment and how much time we're putting on the
So-
equipment, running back and forth.
If we use certain medical equipment, obviously like the ambulance bills for it. So like, for example, like a BVM, right? If we're using it and it goes with them, we grab one of theirs. So it's not really a cost in that way. The thing that would cost us is, of course, like our fuel and the wear on the trucks. But like Mr. President was saying, those 3-4 minutes during a cardiac arrest is kind of a big deal.
And my question is
We're not-
too, is it correct that
we
that
understand.
advantage is likely lost if more communication is necessary before you dispatch?
I'm sorry?
Is it likely that that advantage, that 3 to 4 minute advantage is lost if we require more communication prior to you dispatching a truck?
I believe so. I believe if they were to only respond solo, that definitely could add up. And I just don't want to see the community end up like.
And it's going in something as simple as a lift assist. The last thing any of us would want is to have our mother or grandmother on the floor, because we have 2 paramedic or EMT that responded, and now they're toning us out to go. So then we're 3 to 4 minutes behind that, because we're under 2 to go out. We got to get through traffic safely to get to there, and then to help them pick her up as safely as possible, and so they can continue their assessment if they're going to take her in or not. So at that point, we're anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, maybe from the first person there taking vitals to the point where we got her onto a stretcher, and then she's like, oh, when you guys lifted me, my hips hurt. So then she decided to go on. So one of the things it does cut down, that's something as simple as a lift assist. It does cut down on the patient. First of all, our part is the dignity. Imagine, we all know if you're on the ground, everybody's looking at you. I don't want no ruckus, no lights and sirens. Neighbors are coming around, So it's a quicker stabilize the patient, assess the patient, either take her to the hospital for the professionals to look at, or get her back on the couch and get her vitals checked at least.
So you guys rolling along with them is vital.
It has to be standard procedure for you to get that 3 or 4 minutes. It can't be wait and see if they need us.
Oh,
That-
yeah,
That's what
no.
I think I
Because
understand.
our standard
Yeah.
is you need to be out the door within 2 minutes.
As fast as possible.
You need to be out within 2 minutes.
We can't
If we're
wait to
gonna
find
pay
out
you
if they're
to be a paid
35.
Yeah,
firefighter,
exactly.
We have a standard of meeting those times.
So it's agreed that that's vital to do.
Yes.
Is there a mutual aid agreement with ESD 4?
I believe we had one
For
with
that.
Allegiance. I can check if there was one with ESD 4. If not, then that's definitely something we can put in place.
Yeah, because I think, that's something we're looking at, because, I mean, yeah, it's very vital, I get it. But in other circumstances where you guys have mutual aid, there could be big costs that you guys go out to assist more in a fire and you use all your foam.
Yeah.
They need to refill that,
Yes.
right? Okay, so, I mean, we're kind of looking at the aspect of where you guys are rolling all these other times, wear and tear on the vehicle and the fuel. How
That is the downfall.
Yeah,
That will always be a downfall.
And that's something new, am I correct? Something that,
Since
how,
October.
We've used mutual aids forever.
but no, I mean, but rolling with,
Oh,
Yes.
rolling every medical call since October.
Since
Since October
October.
1st.
Because we went with full-time staff?
Yes.
yeah. So I would say at least, according to the contract and whatnot, if getting that mutual aid maybe renegotiated, something to work with on that. 'Cause we all agree it's vital.
Oh, there's no,
But there's just the same aspect of the replacing firefighter phone.
Exactly.
There should be something. And I think for you guys coming together and the way you guys are working together is amazing. I think it's awesome. And it's best for the community.
Yes.
All right, anything else, guys? The last item I was on here was audit expenses. We were also discussing that with our attorney and how that we can do that, and if we can do it, how the balance there is how is it going to impact the fire department? We certainly want to, if we feel like we can charge them for it, and I think most of us agree that they should pay for it, but we also have to balance that against making sure they still have the money to run a firehouse, okay? And so we're going to work that out and get back to you guys on that, for sure. And there's a little ways before that happens anyways, and so we've got some time to figure that out, but it's definitely something on our agenda to figure out.
We can put it on layaway plan.
Kmart's out of business. No blue light specials here.
Yes, sir, Barry?
I think the fire department board and y'all as a board need to come together and figure out which way y'all want us to run and the way we're gonna run, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all on the same page, not trying to figure out what we're doing and trying to figure out what y'all are doing.
Yeah.
Well, and I can speak pretty freely for the board, is that our main objective with the board members that we have on board right now is for the community, everything for the community. But we also now, we're tasked with other things that we didn't think we were gonna have to face.
Right.
So we're having to learn, we're having to research, we're having to reach out for extra help, and it's not like, there's nothing secret squirrel here, from our board down, we don't wanna hide nothing, we're not hiding nothing, we're the first to be like, hey, I don't know, somebody that can help us, and we warrant that, we want that, because that's only gonna make us better and make the community safer, because that's what we're here for.
And like I said, just seek out help, I'm not a firefighter. I called Patrick and met with Patrick. He's a firefighter, long lasting, asked opinions, got his advice on things. I mean, it's nothing wrong with reaching out and seeking out other advice for people. I think between all of us, again, the biggest thing was recognizing there's an issue. We know there's an issue. Now let's work together and fix it.
And I feel pretty confident.
I feel like I'm watching that happen, and it's not going to happen overnight.
I'm pretty confident the responses you have given us in our conversations tonight really shows that we are working forward to cleaning the slate, moving forward, making it better.
We have to.
Absolutely, that's what we're here for. We can't tell you how to do it, we just,
Just do it.
certain things we can ask, so.
Yes.
some of these questions that are being asked in this conversation, they're not easy questions to ask. but we have to ask the questions. There's things that we know that there's some faults that have happened. It's no fault of anyone particular in this room, but because we've had individuals that are no longer around that have caused these problems, we have to start diving in and looking at what we're doing and what's going on and correcting it. That's the only way we move forward, is we stop and look back at what has happened. I agree. Both boards have to work together. That's the intent, and that's why I was at the meeting the other night to listen to what the board had to say. I thought it was very good. We have a job to do. At the end of the day, we have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, hands down. That's the goal. That's what we have to do. And if there's any collusion or anything like that, then questions arise. And so that's why. Can all these questions be answered? Can they be answered? Absolutely. Can we get this fixed? Absolutely. Can we move forward? Absolutely. But it's a team effort across the board. We have to do that. And sometimes the hard questions that are not easy questions have to be asked.
We did not set.
How many do you have on your board?
Records. You didn't.
How many people?
Oh, I didn't.
6, okay. It's a 6.
And I don't know about we asked for those maintenance records. Is that something you think you're gonna be able to easily find, or do we need to set a timeline for you to get that to us?
I can go with Sophia through these records.
Are they electronic or paper?
They're not ever electronic here.
So
We can make them electronic now, but
Who's been in charge of that up to this point? Is there any one individual that has been responsible for that?
That'd be Delucia.
Okay.
for the most recent stuff.
Yes.
The other stuff, anything that we've paid for and any other maintenance was put into folders with the month on them and then put in bins. So we are just now getting to where our filing system is
How
actually.
about like this, by the next meeting, at least get
We
with
can get some
Lucha
progress
and
The most
provide
recent,
us just
these.
Yes, we can do that.
what you have and give us an update on where you're going with that.
Yes, sir.
So basically, we can have a maintenance log per unit.
That's what the
Like
goal
a
is.
foot.
We should have.
It should have, that's what we need. That's what each truck is.
That's what we're hoping for.
I want to go back to when I was in the Navy. I was in aviation, and every plane had its own record. You know, and anything, you could go back on how far you can go back and find when's the last time that thing broke, and you can get
And
through
that's what
there
I was
and
hoping
figure it
for with
out.
this assessment, they can see everything that's already been done. You know what, all the major components have been fixed already, so this truck is gonna be good to go for a long time, or, I mean, it's got some big things that are gonna be happening.
Well, it's creating a
We won't
maintenance,
know if we don't have that book.
preventive maintenance schedule.
Yes.
You know, again, that's one experience I have is working on airplanes, and you had dailies, you had 24s, you had 72s, you had all these maintenance schedules that had to be done. If none of them, if any one of them wasn't signed off on, when that pilot came down to get that plane, it was like, hey, what's going on here? And he was pissed because he didn't get to fly. So.
And what about the vehicles, the Dodges? I mean, how does that one work out?
So the Dodgers went back. The Dodgers went back to Brown Dodge. I spoke with the GM myself, and he pulled them for the simple fact is that he did not want to have that publicity hit him. And I agreed with him 110%. I'm like, I understand, because at this point, we need to know if we're going to have camera crews out here, and all of a sudden we have two vehicles
Brown Dodge.
powered by Brown Dodge on the fenders.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's the last thing he needs is to get roped into that. You know, so,
I have no further questions.
well, we talked about it, but he said that, he goes, once everything clears up, he goes, I'm all about helping the community and helping the fire department. He goes, we'll revisit this, and we go another series of vehicles to go back at you guys, but everything has to settle down. No more bad publicity. And he goes, I'm all for it. He goes, I'll support you guys in the community as much as possible.
But originally, any maintenance that needed to be done on the vehicles was
Done by them.
Yes.
Any check engine light or anything that came on, took it right back.
Yeah, and they were on a 5,000 mile rotation. So at 5,000 miles,
They just rotate them out.
they'd get another new set, and then those would go to the used.
Nice tax write-off for them.
Anything else, anyone? Either? Acknowledge the next meeting would be April 15th,
Yes, always double checking, so yeah.
tax day.
Tax day.
Great day.
My hair done.
Yeah, ours too.
And if nothing else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
That's Jeff.